Welcome to the You Decide podcast. I'm Dr. Tiffany. We are going to bring you stories of ordinary people who have chosen to live an extraordinary life, outside of their comfort zones and into confidence, possibility, and certainty. You are just one decision away from living your most aligned life, because let's get real, that's what we all want. Hey guys, we're back with Amanda. She shared with us the how-tos, the back ends, the everything that we would need to know about homeschooling. And because we're in the phase we are in the world, there are some people forced into e-learning and some people really intrigued as to how this may look for them and if it's a great option. So if you missed the first part, go back to listen to part one. This was a pretty long talk, about 1 hour and 15 minutes. So check that out first. And if you already have, awesome. I can't wait to hear what you think about part two. Check it out. And of course, enjoy. Does Greg help, or is it just you?
He does help because, I am not a writer. I don't journal. I don't like to do any of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And so he kind of, if you want to say, oversees everything. You know what I mean? He's our principal, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? Because, it's like sometimes I will be teaching the kids, and seriously, I will have those days where I just feel like we're button heads. And it's just a struggle, and you know what I mean? And so then sometimes we just need that principal to come into our classroom and go, okay, guys, let's, you know what I mean? Like, let's regroup.
So, can we just talk about what a lot of people say the con to homeschooling is not having social interaction? Can we go there? Did you consider that before you started? I imagine.
We did. Yeah. Yes. So, we did quite a bit.
How you overcome, because KK is in gymnastics.
Yes.
How do you overcome this or get them in things and make sure they have friends and perspectives? So some people also say, well, the public school environment gives them good or bad. I say that in quotes because I don't mean good or bad. But gives them a lot of experiences to see, good or bad, that when they transition into college life, they're not rocked, right? They're not like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen somebody that looks like that. I haven't seen someone do that. I haven't seen someone talk like that. So can you cover all of that?
Yeah. So for us, that was definitely something that was on our minds. But we also did know some homeschool families and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so I knew that somehow, some way, that these other homeschool families were doing it, and their kids did not seem fazed by any means of that. So, we do try to strive to get our kids in activities, like acro, dance. We do take, not with other kids, but they do still take piano lessons and voice lessons. We go to the ninja gym. You know what I mean? Just putting them into those other activities that would allow for them to be in with other friends or with other kids their age and stuff like that, and then too, as a homeschool community, and especially, I know that Fargo has a really good one. I know that I believe Bismarck does, and I know that Grand Forks does, you know what I mean? And and Moorhead has one, you know what I mean? There are so many homeschool communities that we get together with other homeschool families that does allow for that friendships and those bonds to, you know what I mean? That that helps to facilitate that and helps to do that. You know what I mean?
Is it called something? Like, are there different homeschool communities that people choose?
Like, on Facebook, there's the North Dakota Homeschool Association.
Okay.
Then there's the Fargo one, which is the Fargo, I think it's called Fargo Moorhead Homeschool Group.
Okay.
And then Moorhead, they have another kind of group as well. You know what I mean? So there's definitely groups to participate in. And, like at the beginning of the year, I was talking with the Ninja Gym on Main, and they helped me get a Friday homeschool group session together. So then the homeschool kids all come together at that Ninja Gym every Friday.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? So, and there's other things that happen as well, such as, like the skating and the different, you know what I mean? Like people are always trying to help a group get together to socialize, to get, you know what I mean? To build friendships and stuff like that,
Do people do like halfsies? Can you do half school and half home, or is that a thing?
It is, yeah. So you can, the state allows for a homeschool child to take any class anywhere. You know what I mean? So even our kids can take band, they can take choir, they can, they can go in and do the extracurricular activities such as basketball and football and all that kind of stuff. You can just take a class. Like if I'm like, okay, you know what, I really can't teach you your math anymore.
Yeah, right.
I can send them to the school for math and stuff like that. For the most part, it just, from what I know, the guidelines to be is that you have to allow, every year we send in a statement of intent to homeschool to the Fargo school system. So that way they know that we're not going to be sending our kids to school, but that we are homeschooling them and stuff like that. So then that does, on that sheet, then it can tell them, okay, my kid will be taking, this class at this school, or they will, you know what I mean? And especially for their numbers of what they might need to know for their class size and stuff like that as well. So yeah, that is totally, you know what I mean, available to us.
I think when they get older, like all the electives that they have at school, they have welding and they have, all those things that if that's not part of what we do at our house, I would not be a very good welder teacher.
Right, exactly.
But like, yes, to get kids in some of those, or a really social kid that's kind of starting to itch for some of that interaction, how can you put them into a few things here and there and
Right. Yeah. It's like, I know a lot of people that have even their kids in speech, you know what I mean? Because in a smaller setting like this, if you don't have, you know what I mean, that is really good to even put your kids into that too, of okay, speech is a little bit harder to do in a home-based system, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Because you don't have the bigger group to do a speech with, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, you know what I mean? So I do know even parents that have their kids, especially in speech, and
I bet
some of the biologies and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Where you need labs.
Yeah. But, it's like we go through, for the majority of our curriculum, we go through a company called Veritas Press. And they are actually a company or a school system. So eventually, if I need Kamaria or Ezra Jackson to take online classes with an instructor, that is also available, that they can take online classes as well. So, and that is like biology or, another language or whatever, you know what I mean? Like they have a lot of different options as well. And two, if we wanted to strictly do that, they have a diploma program. So that way the kids would get their high school diplomas, and that is something, that Greg and I are, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
as Tamari gets to 11th and 12th grade, is that something that, we need to explore? You know what I mean? I don't know. We'll see what time does.
Absolutely. Okay. So for these, some of these people, by the way, this is super helpful. Like I didn't know this stuff. So, because I think part of this in a decision to do it is not being educated and not even being sure where to find the information, because if the majority of us have always just done public school, it's like you're swimming against the current.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And when you don't know where to look or how to find the information, it seems very overwhelming of okay, now I'm thrown into this and I don't know what to do.
Right.
I can totally understand.
Yeah. So how do you set up their desks or workstations at home? Does do all three of your kiddos have their own iPad? Do they all have their own desk? Do they all have their own everything?
They do, yeah. And we chose to go to Costco and get them all three standing desks.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
You know what I mean? Because it does allow them to get up and kind of move a little bit. So, so that does happen where they will be just standing at their desk if they need to, and it's just a push of a button and it raises up for them. You know what I mean? But that doesn't have to be. It's something that Greg and I have chosen to do. You know what I mean? Just because we knew that this was kind of going to be for the long haul, and we wanted to set it up. We wanted to, just because we know how the alignment, especially with our bodies, in chiropractic and all that. So we did get them nicer chairs, you know what I mean? Like instead of the harder,
hard table chair.
Hard tables, right, exactly. You know what I mean? Like just those kind of things of okay, you know what I mean? Like you sit 4 to 5 hours a day during school. If you are sitting that whole time, I want to make sure that I'm giving you a comfortable chair, that we're not going to have back issues, and then possibly learning issues because we're in pain and we can't focus and stuff like, you know what I mean? But there's also times where my kids just go sit on the couch, you know what I mean? Like, and they will do that when they're doing their reading assignments. You know what I mean? So it isn't all sitting at the desk. You know what I mean? If they're working on handwriting or they're working on their math, then I kind of require them to sit at the desk, just because for us and what I have seen in the past, sitting at a desk or at the kitchen table allows for them to focus better than being on a comfy couch and being
100%.
slouched and all that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, they each have their own desks. It's kind of in a U-shaped. I sit in the middle of the U, and then I can help all three of them at the same time if I, or you know what I mean? Kind of rotating my chair into them, to each one.
Do they always get along? Like what happens when there's sibling fights?
It is that sometimes Greg will help, you know what I mean? Just kind of put the tamper on things. But it's just like, it's a choice of, okay, guys, you know what? You are fighting. How long are you going to fight? How important is it that you get your work done so that way you can go play? If we're fighting, we're taking time out of our learning, and then we're later and later into the day where you're not going to be able to go play. You know what I mean?
So they know that you, no matter what, need to get through your curriculum, whether it takes 4 hours or 6 hours.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yep. They know that they have to get through their schoolwork, and if they don't, the longer it takes, it's up to them. You know what I mean? And really, and that is the nice thing is that this is, in my opinion, facilitating that self-learning that we want to be engraved in our kids, because then when it comes to learning something as an adult, they're going to be like, yes, I'm going to go learn that because I want to. And it won't be such a huge stressor as an adult to learn something as well. You know what I mean? Like it allows them to have more control.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic, right? So intrinsic is truly being motivated by yourself, no matter the influence anywhere, to want to learn it, to learn it a certain way. I think of, I mean, like how many things probably with not only a structured subject, but what do I want to do outside? It's going to be completely different. But that intrinsic motivation is what they're learning versus, all right, we're going to put this whole sea of fish in here and figuring out whether you got to do it, whether or not you want to do it. And I think one of the biggest challenges is when kids get older, they don't necessarily come home and talk to us to say, wow, I'm really struggling. I mean, because even if they have a great grade, doesn't mean they're getting it. It doesn't mean they're getting the help they need. And when you get into puberty and teenagers, a lot of times they won't tell you, you know? So how do we as parents, I don't know, pay a little bit more attention to where they may be struggling, or how can we help the intrinsic motivation? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So share a piece of advice or anything to the two things, to the people right now that are forced to e-learn, to those moms, most moms, but moms and dads, and then to maybe a family that's, whether it's after this e-learning or have just been trying to figure out what to do. Like, can you give two pieces of advice to those people?
Sure. Yeah. You know, I think that, you know, as far as the people that are just kind of forced into this and it's new, and you know what I mean? The thing that I want to say mainly is that just remember that this isn't permanent. This is a season. And what is going on in our world right now isn't going to be a permanent thing. You're not going to have to be forced to do this, you know what I mean, for the rest of your kids' lives. You know, give yourself grace, give yourself ease of this, you know what I mean? It's going to be a hard time, and you might find yourself in tears some days, because seriously, even after 6+ years, I find myself in tears still. And I go to Greg and I'm like, am I doing things right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's okay. We can give ourselves some grace, and we can allow things to come up in our day. We can allow things to do, you know what I mean? That,
right.
You know, but, you know, the one thing that I can say is that through this, just try to plan your week, you know. You know, it's like even something as easy as meal times, you know, because I have had to become a planner for everything in our life. I need to plan our meals out for the weekend before. And I only really go to the grocery store once a week. So I do, you know, it's like I have a binder, and it doesn't matter what kind of binder it is, but I have all of our favorite recipes on 2 pieces of paper. And then when I am just like, okay, I didn't have time this week, I need to know quickly because I'm running to the grocery store in 5 minutes. I'll go through, I'll pick 4 things. That's what I'm making. I'll make my quick grocery list. It's at the tip of my finger and it's right in front of me. And I can just really quickly pick out a few meals and not go, okay, what is it? So making a list of all your favorite meals that you can quickly go to, and just, and to, you know, a lot of our meals are made on Sundays. My family is great with leftovers and stuff like that. So, you know, just try to plan as much as you possibly can for your week ahead. and it'll make it that much easier, because when you can warm up food for lunch, when you are working from home, when you are trying to homeschool your kids and stuff like that, try to have lunch really easy and, getting it just warmed up. So maybe you make supper the night before and you have it for lunch, and then you make something new the next night, But for us, we eat the same meal 3 times because it's easier for me and stuff.
I've
Making
even
lists for
found
your kids.
I cook 3 times a week. I mean, not now. I'm cooking multiple times a day now because we're home, but 3 big times a week, and I'll typically make 2, 3, 4 meals out of that. So our kids, when they're in school and in sports, there's one kid that's ready for supper at 4, another is at 6, and then when that other kid comes back home at 8. So there's people eating all the time, which I think is another challenge with, it would be, just meal planning is probably a topic that would be amazing. People need help with it as to how to cook, how to plan, how to shop, and then how to have enough for your growing kids, right?
Yeah.
I interrupted you though, so you can keep going.
Nope, that's okay. And if you need something that is free and easy as far as homeschool, check out Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool. It is all laid out for you, and I believe that it's by grade. So you know what I mean? I know that there are some families that are looking for more free curriculum and stuff like that.
Awesome.
And then some paid things that I would suggest is the teaching textbooks that we had talked about.
Yep.
IXL, and it's just those 3 letters, IXL.com. That is math worksheets, and it also has English worksheets and science, and I can't remember what else. But that one is a paid kind of thing. Reflex Math is another one that my son Ezra, who is the game. It is a math game essentially, and he loves that. And then of course,
Math, do you say?
Yep, Reflex.
Okay.
And then ABC Mouse for the little ones. I know that there was, of course, a question about how do you homeschool with 2 young babies, or you know what I mean, with young babies as well. And I just really quickly wanted to comment on that too, for you, because it's like, as we have progressed, I did have babies as I was homeschooling and stuff like that. So what I did when I was homeschooling with younger kids that were not in school is that I had special coloring sheets for them during that time that they would do beside us as if they were homeschooling as well, because depending upon the age, they want to be like their bigger sibling. They want to be right there with them. The other thing that I did is I created a homeschool play box. And so I specifically designated certain toys that those children could have during which I was trying to homeschool. And then the other thing would be try to find times during the day that are easiest for you and your child, and do your math stuff, your teaching stuff, especially during those times, like during nap time of your little ones. You know what I mean? And especially if you have, like I had mentioned at the beginning of this call, is that if there's a morning nap and an afternoon nap, then split up the day and allow your child to work on things that don't need your attention, like reading or whatever, And then as far as, advice for those parents that are kind of thinking about homeschooling now, to continue this is that I would encourage you to at least try it. You know what I mean? We have seen very positive results. I was asking my kids, like, would you guys ever want to go to school and stuff like that? And of course they don't know what it's like, but they like their freedom. They like their, you know what I mean? And so they like being at home and doing it. And they're like, I love it. I wouldn't change it, and stuff like that. And if you are going to be homeschooling, you will have a lot of support wherever you are because of the homeschooling network that there is. within almost all communities, you know, whether that be in North Dakota or Minnesota, South Dakota, wherever you might be. There's always pretty big state level groups, as well as more specifically down to your towns and stuff. So
Awesome.
so yeah.
Oh, so good. Wow, I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I didn't. I know a lot of people's experiences. That's much different than resources and strategy as to how people actually do it, and then how they do it successfully, like you said. How we can do it so that everyone's happy and it makes everything a lot easier, because I've seen other situations that it's maybe not as organized or not what that kid needs, and they decide to go to public school because they need more interaction, they need more structure, you know, whatever it is that's just a little bit different. I think the most important is that they're happy, right?
Yes. Yep. And just allowing them to be them, you know what I mean, and not trying to and allowing them to have more control, because if they have more control, then they will be much more willing, you know what I mean? Because it's like, even with food, if I allow my kids to help me cook, they will eat more vegetables, they will eat more, you know what I mean? Like, it's because they are doing it, and then it's their choice, you know? And so I think that if we can, you know, instill that, and two, of how are we ourselves going into this, you know, are we starting our day out really stressed, and so we're then leading our kids into that stressful situation as well?
For sure.
Or can we, you know what I mean? So it's, you know, our kids feed off of us, and of course we can feed off of our kids. And so it's just starting out the expectations, and yeah, I don't know what I would do without my planner.
No kidding.
And stuff like that, because it just really, really helps me, and it keeps us on track, because then in the afternoons I work our business as well.
Your work.
And into the evening hours and stuff like that sometimes too, you know. So it just, you know, so
yeah, that's amazing.
You guys can do this.
I know we can all do it. And I think to never dismiss the power of our own stress response when we're in this stage of discomfort and unknown and uncertainty, that when we can control how we show up and our energy, and our kids will, just like you said, where energy goes, energy flows. So let's make it good energy so that our kids can learn and be in the proper environment, so that we can also teach and we can work at home, which is what lots are struggling with right now. So
yeah, you
awesome
know, and it's
advice.
like, and two, it's like, you know, the one thing that I will even be doing with, or that I do with even Kamaria, is that because she's older and stuff like that, I will sit down with her and I will go through every subject. Like, I will teach her math, I will teach her English, I will teach her, you know what I mean? Like, and then she goes and she does the schoolwork.
Oh, got
it. She's done. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, right. You know what I mean? So the instruction time is, you know what I mean, done and over with for her. If she has questions, she'll come to me and stuff like that. But then her instruction is done. And in the meantime, Ezra's working on things that he doesn't need me to help him with, but then we'll start with him. And then, you know what I mean? So it's just finding ways to organize yourself, organize your time and stuff like that. And things will flow, I think, a lot better as well.
Yeah, that's good feedback. I wondered how people do it with multiple, especially now when we're not as planned, because we, you know, the schools aren't even really sure what's going on. So everything is just trial and error. But the more we can have an idea of how it's going to look, I feel that the more prepared we can be, the more our kids will be able to adapt. better. So
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and even if your kids don't even know what their schoolwork is going to look like, but at least you're saying that, I don't know, is some of the schools just doing like online from like 1 to something, or, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Just,
from what I know, every district is different, and like Callan's at MSUM, and they are completely different. They actually have some mandatory lectures still that are online, but like they're taking roll call. So that's different. You know,
yeah.
so a lot of self-learning, like I just, in the West Fargo district, they have guidelines for a few hours a day per subject. And they're not going to bring in every subject right away, is how I understand it to be. So those kids could, I mean, you could get all your stuff done right away if they give it to you in advance, you know. So a lot of the instructors will give you a week in advance, for example. And then depending on the kid and how he learns, you can do some every day, or you just plow through that same subject and finish it. Just depends on the kid.
Right.
And they haven't had to think for 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, we've been off for a long time, so it's going to take a little bit of.
It will, because even for us, like even just being off for Christmas for 2 weeks, I can really tell a difference. So you're going to want to give yourself again that grace of you know, at least 2 weeks that I've noticed with my own kids of it might be this, you know, back and forth of, I've had a lot of fun recently. I don't like school. I don't want to do this. I'm at home. And that is another thing that I would like to say is that having them not have jammy day.
Yeah, good idea.
You know what I mean? Like that is one thing that I can tell you that from experience is that my kids hardly ever have a jammy day. They have to get ready for the day. Yeah. Just as if they were leaving to go someplace else, because it helps them get ready. It helps them shift from being tired and bedtime and whatever to, okay, I'm dressed, I'm ready for the day. Let's go, you know?
Love it. I'd say that about everything, right? I mean, as soon as you step up to dress for success, which Jim Rohn always talked about, you start to think differently. You start to, your brain starts to do different things versus waking up and working in your jammies all day. So I think that's part of that right now in this phase that we're in for parents. I think that's part of self-care that I hope just kicks up a notch. This is your job now, and this is serious, and get showered and do your hair and do whatever you normally do, have breakfast in a structured time, and make this kind of your job. So Woohoo! Yeah, we could talk for a really long time.
Should we go to food next? No, I'm just kidding.
I know. It might be. We might need to do food next, just not right now. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I will get all these resources in the show notes too. So for anybody listening, or if you know of, this will be awesome. Even people that are asking you these questions, once it's published, just to be able to send it off to them, because there's so many nuggets in here that I think the majority of people will have enough information to research on their own as a family and figure out if this is what they want to do. So thank you.
So it's good. Yes, no problem.
Okay, I'll let you know when it's posted, and for everyone else, stay tuned, ask questions, and check show notes for all the resources that Amanda just talked about.
Thanks, Dr. Tiff.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for listening and being willing to go all in. Ditch the excuses and the comfort zones and make a decision that nothing can stop you. You can find the show notes below, and I'd love for you to share, subscribe, and rate this podcast, but only if you love it.